I got this motorcycle tire turned around where we can see it now. Let me see if I can focus in on this. I can't tell, but right in between my fingers there, I'm going to try to zoom in on that. Gosh, I hope you can see it. I can't see it on the screen there on the camera, but right here it says 41 psi cold is what this tire is supposed to run at. I'm looking at this front wheel on this bike. It's a gold wing. That's why it's got plastic wheel covers and fancy things on it, because it's like the higher end of Honda bikes for traveling and whatnot. Anyway, I can see behind this cover, and I can't really show. If somebody doesn't know what to look for, I'm going to try to show. I got my fingertip right here on the inside brake shoe, and then the outside brake shoe, or brake pad as they call it on disc brakes, is over here on this side. This is my disc rotor right here, and I'm about out of pad. I'm getting real thin. I'm going to put a flashlight on there, and somebody knows what they're looking at with disc brakes will recognize that this is getting pretty thin. I don't know if I'm focusing or not, because I can't really see my camera out here in the daylight, in the sunlight. I think I see some of it now. Okay, we can get a better view of that if I take this cover off, and I will, but I just wanted to satisfy myself to know that I'm at that point where I got to go get a pair of pads for this, and I probably need them for the other side too. This side is the front brake only that works with your hand brake. The other side, it works in conjunction with the rear brake. You step on the brake pedal for the rear brake, and the back brake and the brake on this side apply at the same time. Okay, I'm looking at this I'm looking at this right side, the one that works with the rear brake as well, and we have a lot more pad on this one. You can see between this little metal plate here and the brake disc itself, there's a lot more padding in between those two on both sides. So see if we can zoom in on that. Whoops. Yeah, there's a lot more padding in between there, and we'll definitely get into that a little better detail when I'm doing a brake job on this. I'm just showing for maintenance purposes what to look for. And of course, you look for any moisture around there, and you want to make sure that the brake pads are wearing evenly on both sides, that they're pretty close to the same amount of padding left. You don't want one pad wearing out before the other. Oh, if they're getting thin down to almost nothing, and one looks like it's going to be metal to metal before the other one, well, that's okay. But if one is seriously wearing thinner than the other side, then you've got a caliper issue. The caliper is sticking, and that needs to be dealt with. Here we are under the back wheel. We're up on the center stand, and where my finger is, here's my disc, my brake disc, and right up there is my caliper. And as you can see, we've got brake pad, sufficient brake pad on both sides of the caliper. I'm okay with that. We can easily go another season or two with that. So I only got one set of brakes that I need to change, and that's on the left front. Now, I had trouble a while ago trying to find out where it was written on the back tire, my tire pressure. I found it here, but I can't see it very good. It looks like 42 psi, and if for some reason that's worn off in this particular case, I found it again 41 psi, which is so close to the same it doesn't matter. It's right here on a long line of writing right here on this edge. And if I can zoom in where my fingertip is, we might be able to get that on camera. I don't know if we're focusing in on it or not. This is a good time to just kind of rotate the brake or the wheel and listen to it. I can hear the brake just barely touching it. No tight spots. Sounds real nice. It's hard to do this on the front wheel without a jack. You got to jack up the front end of the motor or have somebody sit on the seat so that the back wheel goes down. I'm going to leave the valve stem down because I got to put air in it. All tires leak air slowly, and the smaller the tire, like on motorcycles or small cars, they're going to leak faster, so it'll take more air each season. Yeah, I just put the gauge on there and I'm getting 30 pounds. I'm going to continue with what I started about doing, like a pre-trip or the first ride of the season on the motorcycle. I just did one on the boat. Didn't cover everything that should be covered, but everything that came to mind while I was doing it. So probably missed a couple things, and I'm sure I'll do that on the motorcycle too. And we're also going to change the front brakes today, probably separate the videos so that someone that just wants to watch the brake job doesn't have to watch the pre-trip. First thing I'm going to do is put it up on the center stand. This is an 800-pound motorcycle and I weigh 165. So if you're scared of doing this, get someone else to do it to help you hold up the other side. But it's on the side stand. I push my center stand down to where I feel the foot hitting the ground, and I'll stand it up until I feel the other foot on the other side. When I feel it touching, then I come down here and I grab it by this handle right here. It's not supposed to be a handle, but I'm going to use it for one. And I'm going to just pick it up and roll it backwards. This is really just the backrest for the backrest. When you don't have that on there, then you have to grab it by this part here. Just in case I didn't get that in the video, I don't know if I did or not. But if you don't have that backrest handle, and most of them won't have it, then you grab it by this bigger plastic covered handle that's right above it, right there. One thing you need to check for sure is your battery. It's under the side cover, in my case on the right side. Check your battery contacts up here. You can take your battery out if you want. It'd be a good idea to be able to see your water level in here, which should be a line on the battery someplace to let you know where it is. If not, then you need to take the top off. Take the battery off and take the little caps off so you can see inside. We'll do that in a minute. I'm going to first show the master cylinder for the back brakes. It's right here. Get the dust off of it. If you don't see any sign of leakage anywhere, then it shouldn't be leaking. We can just take a peek in here. See our fluid level. Okay, our fluid level is pretty close to full. That's a good sign. If it goes down really low and you don't see any leaks, then that probably means you're due for brake pads, because the fluid level will go down on disc brakes while your pads are being used up. And then when you put new pads on, the fluid level will come back up. So don't add to it before you check your brake pads and make sure. And we'll be checking on that today too. I'm going to take the battery out. First I'm going to take a wrench and just crack loose this 10mm nut, or bolt, crack it loose, and then I'll take a Looks like a number 3 Phillips screwdriver I got here. It's the big one. Take that off. And then we can slide the battery out, possibly, without taking the seat off, hopefully. Looks like this does have to come off. Gotta do it carefully, keep from scratching the seat. This is an extra wire that goes to a subwoofer amplifier that I added on, which is inside this side box here. It looks like this is a battery that does not have liquid acid in it. It has some kind of a jellied acid in it. There is a cap that looks like it could come off, but you got to cut through these stickers on top of it, these signs, and I'm not going to do that. It says it's non-spillable and it's sealed. Well, I shake it and I do not hear any liquid moving in there. So I'm not going to open the battery up. I didn't know it was like that. I didn't know it was that kind of battery. But at least I know that I need to clean these contacts just a little bit. They don't need much. So we'll do that and then put it back in there. Got a little piece of sandpaper, a little black, I think it's 180 or something. I'll just twist it on these just a little bit, just so it doesn't look so dull and dirty and gray. Get a little bit of shiny metal showing through. And we'll put it back together. And before I do that, I'm going to show what I just opened up here. If I can get the camera to zoom in. That is your main, like a master fuse. Is this piece right here. It goes on with screws. You don't just plug it in. And I don't know where the spare is to that, so if that one burns up, I don't know if I got a spare for that or not. I need to find out, because that is the master fuse that everything runs on. And if that one burns up and you're out in the middle of nowhere, of course putting another one on, it'll burn too, because there has to be a short somewhere to burn it. This wire goes nowhere, because when I bought it, it went somewhere and it was disconnected and I did not reconnect it and I forgot what it was. I want to say it's for the trailer light wiring. I traced it down back then 2 years ago when I bought it, but I don't remember. I think it was a trailer light wiring, and I did not reconnect it because I have no intention of pulling a trailer with it. Anyway, that is your master fuse right there. I'm going to go on ahead and put the battery back in and tighten everything down. Got the battery back in. I'm going to put my side cover on. Now that I'm satisfied that there's no liquid coming out of the brakes or out of the battery, everything is dry. A little film of dust on there is always better to see than any kind of moisture. Now over here on the left side, I'm going to open up this side cover and show you where the fuse box is. I had a little trouble getting that fuse cover off of there, but I did get it off. So there's my fuses in there. I'll show you how I got this off. I had to stick a screwdriver in underneath this and pry this little thing down and get that to snap off. And then I had to reach up on top and get a finger in under the seat, which was hard to do, and press this button down right here, which unhooks that part. And then I could pop that off So it was a little tricky getting that off of there, but anyway, there's your fuses in there. Looks like they're all different sizes, ranging from 5, 10, and 15. Well, we're on this side of the motor. I'm gonna bring the camera over here and pull this little cover off and show some stuff that's going on inside this. This one just snaps on as well. It's got a little hook right in here that this tab goes into. When you put it back on, you got to line that up, and then there's one on the bottom here too. It lines up down here. Anyway, this is the alternator. Okay, that's the alternator there, and it's nice because it's removable like it is on a car, instead of being in pieces built into the motor like it is on other motorcycles. This right here is where you bleed your clutch at if you have to bleed the slave cylinder. That's the slave cylinder to the clutch down there, and it's removable from the outside of the motor without taking everything apart, which is nice. Anyway, that's the bleeder nipple for that if you have to do that. And if you don't see fluid leaking down here, you shouldn't have to. But the slave cylinder on a clutch on an older motorcycle will tend to leak internally. They'll lose brake fluid inside the motor oil. As long as it's not a big problem, you don't have to change your oil over that. But if you do have to bleed your clutch out up here and add more fluid to it, oh, more than 2 or 3 times, I'd say, yeah, you better change your motor oil. There's another place I'm going to try to get the camera on. I'll need a flashlight probably, but I'm going to try to zoom in right there where the shifter. Your shifter goes through a little relay shift inside there. I don't know what it's called, but it doesn't shift directly out of the motor like most bikes do. It has this shifter goes to another shifter that does the shifting. And anyway, right down in there is, let's see if I can get this in there. I'm hoping I can. Yeah, that's it right there where that bolt is in the middle. There's a seal in there. It has a tendency to leak on these 1500s. I found out about that when I bought this because mine was leaking. There's a bushing that wears out, and the reason why is because of that relay shift that doesn't have a very good support. Well, I had to buy a kit for mine, an extra support. I changed that seal in there. You had to take all that out, get to it, and change the seal, and then I had to put this extra support that bolts on in here. That's a different job. Sorry I didn't have the camera on that. But if you have a lot of oil constantly dripping out underneath the motor right there, then that is it, and there is something on YouTube for that. I'll probably forget to put a link up when I put this up, but there is something. That's how I found out how to fix mine. Then your fuel access cover here, which I guess everybody knows that has a gold wing, knows that this little knob right here, it has a key. It's a copy of your ignition key, except it's too short to use it in your ignition. It won't go in far enough. It works over here unless you go and get new locks, which you can do. It works in there to open that up, and it works in here to open this up, and it's just handy to have it looking like just a knob when it's actually a key also. And if you lose your key, there's numbers on the back of any one of these locks. You just call a dealer. Nowadays they might require you to bring your title in, but you used to be able to just call them and have them send it to you on the phone. A big dealer, a little dealer won't be able to get the key for you. They'd have to order it from a big dealer. But you go to a big dealer that has 50 gold wings on the floor and 500 other motorcycles, then yeah, you just give them that number and they'll send you a key. Well, this little thing right here course, you can find this in your owner's manual. That is a screw you can turn to adjust this idle speed on your motor. Once it's warmed up and it's idling, if it's going too fast or too slow, you can adjust it with that. Just turn that one way or the other. And that, of course, is your fuel filter, which you have access to right here. And you can pull this cover off. Just unsnap these little things right there on both sides, and you can just pull your cover off without really any tools to speak of. You just have to wrestle with it to get it back in position, to get it back in. And you got to pull these things off. These master cylinders, I did a video earlier this spring, I think before I even took the bike out. I just was looking at it and put a battery charger on it and squeezed the clutch, and the handle just sunk right all the way down to the handlebar, and I thought, oh, my clutch needs to be bled out. It's leaking, the slave cylinder is leaking into the motor. Yeah, well, it comes with a window on the side, but when it gets old like this one is, you can't see through that window. So you have to buy a new master cylinder for it. The same thing on the brake side. That one's got that little window on it too, and if you can't see through it, doesn't mean that it's not going to work. It still works as a master cylinder, but yeah, you have to spend some money to replace them and then bleed everything out again. And everyone that's got a 1500 knows about this. That's your reverse. When the motor's running, kickstand is up, shifter is in neutral, transmission's in neutral. You can pull this thing out, pull that up, and that engages a gear into the electric starter that will turn the wheels backwards when you press the starter button. Now I am going to do the brakes.